I decided to make role play actually like 2 years ago when I was living in London with a friend of mine, and it literally came in the last week of my stay in London. I was doing a whole bunch of production, shows, gallivanting around and meeting the culture, and I wanted to make a piece that kind of like symbolized my whole stay in London. It was short and sweet. It was jam-packed with a lot, intricate city, intricate culture, fast moving, So when I made role play, a friend of mine who I was living with at the time founded a streetwear fashion brand called YOROSHIKU 4649, which is the digital code for love. And I was just blessed to be able to like work out of a safe, cool environment, share creativity. I didn't necessarily know I was going to make this EP as such. I kind of engineered it backwards. I knew that I wanted to have something that represented the same way I felt about London, but in a different way, in like a parallel way. So role play, playing a role in society, playing a role in everyday life, and it came down to like how a body part sound, how interacting with a certain kind of body part would sound, and the first song that kicked it off was Kung Fu. Like I was listening to a lot of different music, garage, intelligent drum and bass, speed garage, R&B, future beats, house, hip-hop, and I wanted to meld it all together because it was kind of like melding all the sounds of the city together. I named it Kung Fu because of the way it reminded me of like this interplay, it's the first thing that gave me the idea of role play, like this interplay that you have with people, with yourself, with affliction for one specific need or want, and I don't know, it translated the way it did. It wasn't supposed to be a genre. I was just kind of exploring, and yeah, that's what kickstarted it. And once I had this song, I knew that I wanted to make an EP that kind of melded together, more or less. When I was producing, I found my way to Yumi Sakaki, the founder of a Japanese London brand, YOROSHIKU 4649. When her and I came together, we shared a lot of creative space, and just creating visuals, mixes, going to parties, meeting people, and I had this safe haven to be in, I had this crazy creative that was hustling and grinding every day on a creative, and I kind of felt like I wanted to do the same, and I couldn't explain myself so well in the beginning. I was in a new city, I had to hustle, I had to make money, and just like the way in the storyline that kind of brought me up to being able to just work on music full time in London was an experience that resonated heavily, So the reason why I came together with a brand initially was because we met under circumstances of creativity. Myself and my friend Junior T were doing a show downtown London. She came out. The name sounded familiar, realized that we were following each other on Twitter for like years, and just realized how small and intricate that movement or that culture really is. And we came together near the end of my trip, turned one of her rooms into a studio for a little bit. I was just on a wave, I felt like I was making something that I didn't make before. I had the confidence, to make it. I had the practice to make it. What you're listening to right now is Tribes. Tribes is kind of this fun-loving, bouncy vibe that just takes you somewhere else for a second. You know, it's constantly changing. It's short and sweet to the point. It's one of my favorite tracks just because, I don't know, it has the soul, it has, you know, it has the church, it has the drums, the breakdowns. It's just different, you know? What you're listening to right now is Moanin'. Moanin' wasn't necessarily going to be featuring vocals by James Fauntleroy, but because I decided to put it out for free, and people were like, don't do it, just, you know, do something by yourself. I couldn't necessarily deny how dope it sounded when cause I made it initially with that vibe, and it started as like this loop. I started actually in Belgrade, Serbia, and I brought it back too, and when I was listening to it, it just kind of like clicked. It was back in the vibe, and I knew that it was going to be on a project right away, you know, so I kept it as such. Roleplay was my contribution to maybe like a part of my future, which like now I can talk about a little bit more in depth, because present, future, whatever, because I was known for hip hop lyricism, which I still hold very dear to my heart. Yet I didn't need to formulate it. I wasn't doing this for anybody else. I was kind of just on a wave where I wanted to express myself, and whatever happened. You know, I was making money. I was traveling the world. I didn't have this need for music to be my primary subject for life, living, because it already was. I don't know, you know, even just talking about this right now, it just brings me back. You know, I can visualize where I was at. And that's why I wanted to make it. I wanted to take a picture for myself that I can't sum up necessarily into words. What you're listening to right now is Purr, and if you can tell the sample flip, it's pretty distinct, and it comes from my like love for hip hop, you know. Obviously, you know, Jay using the same sample. You know, we used to use umbrellas to change the bad weather. Now we travel first class to change the forecast. It was just like this fast braggadocio that turned into like this emotional mode of, you know, future production. You know, I don't really give a shit what it sounds like, what it's supposed to sound like. You know, there was a bed squeaking, I just made a bed squeak and sampled it. There was a little this, a little that, I played piano over it. And, you know, once I I had like all my little trap samples. I heard like Gucci Mane's voice. I kind of went off that. That was my first start. I knew that I wanted to flip it, and then I heard that burr, flipped it into purr, you know, word to players, Dilla. And nothing much more to be said, you know. I just it followed itself. The bounce, kind of the vibe. It was like my speed up in London, you know. I was like going into 5th, 6th gear. Like, it was undeniable that I hustled all the way to where I made it, and I appreciate all of the lead up, you know, the calmness, and this was kind of like, okay, you know what, I'm here. Yeah, that's that. The last track on the EP, Howlin', featuring Cardin J, crazy artist. I met him through my PR agent, who I was initially living with out in Kent County, which is just south of London. And I wasn't necessarily in the mix yet then, you know. I kind of like shadowed out. I was going to London, you know. We were just like putting tracks out, doing a few shows here and there. I'd grab the train, you know, hide from the operators, no money in the pocket. And I met Cardin J, just like a super hardworking, super talented London singer. He's doing big things for himself as well, and I'm happy to see that, because I picked him out, you know. I picked out the ear, I picked out what was going on, and full circle, this was recorded in a studio in London that got given to us for a session, kind of like a teaching session, but it was in a crazy studio. And we went to, kind of had this idea, like howling at the moonlight, you know, everything kind of like waning, you know, back and forth, cloudy, you know, smoky, sultry as shit, you know. And he just locked in, man. You know, we were in the studio, there was hella people there, the vibe was crazy, and I recorded him, took everything back, pushed it through the SSL, just make sure everything was cranked out. Yeah, did the vocals at night, you know, just chopped it up and did the thing in the studio, at our studio in 4649 YOROSHIKU. And yeah, it was a wrap, you know. I told myself, this is it, I don't need no more. And once that was done, my homies encouraged me to kind of like put it out as soon as I could. So we worked on the artwork together, which was made by 4649 YOROSHIKU and Yumi, and killed it, you know. Just like the texture of the body parts, the sensualism of it. If you know me, it kind of like represents where I wanted to take it, you know, the intricate nature of it all. Still simple though, you know, and I'm all about typefaces, so the fact that we got to make our own little typeface as well just got me geeked. Yeah, you know, after that, it's funny because everything inspires the next step. So, you know, we took this project, and a homie of mine in North London mastered it for me just off the strength. And I'm super happy with how he did it, just like an OG Jamaican producer, but it's locked in, you know, it just sounds right. And at this point in time, kind of like was wondering where and what I do with this, and how do you make something like extended shelf life without just being like, yo, listen, yo, bump this, yo, buy this. So I decided to actually like kind of like charmingly team up and make my own selections of wardrobe pieces. You know, I'm big into simplicity, monochrome or vibrant colors. It just has to kind of work, you know. Like, I come from like upscale streetwear, you know. I like to look good, smell good, be fresh without spelling it out, you know.